today I'm going to show you how to do an epoxy job on a garage floor. This is my shop at my new house, and I've been working for some time now to build that and get everything the way I want. I'm on the final step of doing the floor. There weren't that many videos on YouTube that explained how to do this, so I took it upon myself to share it with you, my fan base, on how to do this job. We're using stuff called Epoxy-Coat from a company called Epoxy-Coat. You can find them online. They are not sponsoring me for this video. It's just something I found by myself online. There's good reviews and it's good quality product from what I can tell. I'll give you guys a review after the fact to let you know how everything went 6 months and 12 months later. So there's a couple different types of coating we're going to apply today. Just to guide you through the process. We have the floor already swept and clean, all the cracks vacuumed out. We're going to go, after we run through everything with our grinder, we're going to apply the patch kit right here. It's just a putty that gets pushed into all the cracks. From there, we're going to apply our primer, and then we're going to apply our epoxy. Once we're done applying our epoxy, when it's still wet, we're going to walk on the floor with spiked shoes, flake everything out. I'll throw our flakes up into the air, and last but not least, we're going to finish up with a polyurethane clear coat to give it a nice, long-lasting, glossy, sealed finish. With that being said, let's get started. Like I said, we're going to start by getting our shop vac and vacuuming out all the cracks on the floor. As you can see, we have some significant cracks in the floor that are going to have to be repaired. This is the shop we're going to be doing the work in. It's a 3.5 car extra deep shop. It's approximately 750 square feet. And we even have this drain to work around too. So to do this project, you're going to have to rent a couple tools. To begin with, I rented an Epoxy-Coat grinder here. I have a family member who does a lot of concrete. He said this is what you want to go with. It's a double head grinder. You have to rent the grinder itself, which is about $100. The bottom of it, you'll see the grinding wheels on the bottom. For this job, we're using a 30 grit because we're using a flake coat. If we weren't doing a flake coat and it was just finished concrete, we wanted to use the 70 grit for it. It was $100 to rent the actual blades for the bottom. Follow your manual on how to use this, as well as the vacuum cleaner and the heads, how to do it properly. This video is just for educational purposes only. Also, we had to rent the shop vac system for this. This is made for sucking up silica, which is the fine dust you get when you grind a concrete floor. You could try to use your shop vac, but it's going to clog up your filter and cause a lot of problems. For that reason, I rented the shop vac system, which is actually double motors right here. And what it does is it's going to suck everything out of this port. So when you're doing your concrete, there's not a lot of dust all over the place, which is going to be a big problem in the end. So you want to rent an extra system like this. The vacuum cleaner was, I believe, $80 to $100 to rent. It comes with a hose as well as an attachment just to vacuum up everything that that doesn't get sucked up when you're actually have it attached to the grinder to give you a nice finished product at the end of the day. So how do you use a big machine like this? It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. To begin with, make sure your blades are installed on the bottom of it. Once your correct blades are installed, like we said, we're using 30 grit to do the initial grinding here. Once your blades are installed, you're going to want to make sure you level it. Get this lever, release it, adjust everything on your level gauge. So just hold this to where it's level. When you're looking at your gauge, lock it in place. This lever stays here for the rest of the job. With that being said, you're going to turn your machine on. You're going to, when it's powered on, you're just going to tap one spot on the ground, move back, make sure you have a nice even wear with both heads. That's how you know that you're actually level. You want to make sure you grind level. If you're not level, you can imagine it's going to affect the finished product you have on the job. When you're going back and forth and you're using the machine, you want to use this bar. This helps you control it a little bit better. When you're using this machine, you don't just go forward with it like a vacuum cleaner. What that's going to do is it's just going to create a tunnel in the concrete. You don't want to do that. What you do is you go right to left like this the whole time when you're doing the floor. That gives you a nice even grind. You also have to do a process called cross hatching. So what that means is I'm going to go front to back in the garage, do the whole garage, and then I'm going to go right to left. That's just like when you're painting dark color with a paintbrush, how you have like a checker type pattern. That's what we're going to have in the end, and that makes it so you have a nice even wear on the floor of the garage. To use the vacuum, it's pretty simple. To drop the bottom pan to empty it, pick your foot up, it drops out, slide back, reverse, locks it down. This is a 13 amp, 120 volt motor. One thing you have to think about is your grinder is 20 amp, 120 volt motor also. You want to make sure you have two circuits. So you have, you plug this into one circuit and one on the other in your garage. So you may have to run an extension cord that's the correct gauge from your house out to your shop if you only have one circuit in your shop. So after the first pass, you can see a nice even wear and the contrast from where we ground and where we didn't. This is what it looks like after going right to left in the entire garage for the first pass. One problem I did have is that the dust collection with this machine didn't suck up as much dust as I expected, and there was a decent amount left on the floor. If anyone had this problem before and has a solution, let me know in the comments below. After I finished going right to left in the shop, I wanted to vacuum up all the residual dust so I could look for dark spots. So when I was going front to back and cross-hatching in the shop, I knew where to hit real good with the grinder. The dust collection system did a good job of being able to vac up the residual dust, but when I was grinding, it left a lot on the floor, as you can see. This is what everything looked like after my first pass of going right to left in the shop. As you can see, there's still some dark spots that I'm going to have to make sure I hit when I go from front to back and do the entire shop, but overall it looks good. Some of the cracks like this one had a left and right side that were higher and lower than each other, but hitting them with the grinder really good took the edge off, as you can see here. After cross-hatching and grinding the floor front to back, this is what the final product looked like. Overall, I was very impressed with it, and it was definitely worth the extra work of grinding the shop front to rear. Now we're going to start repairing the floor before we apply our epoxy and our top coats to start blow out all your cracks. The manufacturer said for cracks less than 1/8 of an inch to use acrylic latex caulk. While they said I could use any one for $6 a tube, I purchased the one that they sell just to play it safe. When applying it, just squeeze it out and then push it into the cracks with a putty knife. For cracks larger than 1/8 of an inch, the company says you have to purchase this crack repair kit from them. I purchased 2 of these for my garage, and I'm glad I did. There's a decent amount in there, but if you have large cracks, you definitely want an extra set. I also want to warn you guys, this is some pretty nasty stuff. If you get on your drywall knives or your clothes, you're just going to have to throw everything out. So only use disposable items here. Also use gloves. If you get this stuff on your hands, it's almost impossible to get it off. All the products from this company have a part A and a part B that you have to mix together. As you can see, the gray material is your part A, and in this container with the red top is a Vaseline type material, which is your part B, or your hardener. When mixing this, you want to make sure you are very thorough and mix it very, very well. And it's extremely hard to mix this stuff. I moved it around with my putty knife for a long time in there, and it still didn't seem like it mixed as good as it should have. Using this material, I learned that the best way to mix it is to mix part A and part B in that top container that the gray material comes in. Mix everything really good in there, then pour it into the black container, and then you can apply it. With everything mixed up, just scoop it out with your putty knife and start lobbing it into the joints. Once it's in there, spread it out nice and smooth. I used a 8-inch drywall knife to finish everything off very well, and the product came out really good. Just note that the way this dries is the way it's going to be. You can't sand this material or anything, so you want to get it on as smooth as you can. This is what everything looked like after it was cured and dried. I have to tell you, this stuff's rock solid. It's just as hard as the concrete, and I'm very confident that it's going to hold up for the long term. These are all the cracks after they're repaired in the shop. The only area the floor grinder doesn't get is the edge of the wall. So right now, we're going to take care of that with an angle grinder. To do our edge grinding, we're going to have a simple shop vac as well as a normal off-the-shelf grinder. I bought this one for $35 at my Lowe's. I also bought a concrete bit for the bottom of it. That was about $8 on Amazon. I'll put a link to it in the comments below, as well as a dust shroud cover. You can flip away so you can see the edge. You go upside down, you can see your bit down here, it's going to turn. This is these brushes. They're going to go up against the concrete. You have an adapter right here. Plugs in right here and adapts to your shop vac. This is me doing the angle grinding on the edges of the shop. As you can see, it takes it off really quick. It took me about 30 minutes to do the entire perimeter of my 750 square foot shop. It went very easy. One thing to note, if you're using your personal shop vac to do this, like I did, the silica will clog your filter very quickly and you're going to have to blow it out a couple times. Before applying the first coat of primer, I washed the floor off and squeeged it very good to make sure there was no residual dust that would interfere with the adherence of the product. As you can see, a lot of dust came off and the floor is very clean now.
To walk on the coating as it dries, you need to wear these spiked shoes. They allow it so there's no footprint marks or anything like that in the top coat or any coat that you step on. When walking with these shoes, make sure you don't drag your feet, otherwise you'll leave a pencil-like mark in the epoxy. The kit I purchased from the manufacturer came with one set of these shoes, but since I was going to have someone assist me with the job, I bought another set. I'll put a link to those in the comments below. They were under $20, and it was definitely worth having that extra set for the person that was helping me. This portion of the video just shows you how I put the shoes together. They were very easy to assemble. I didn't have any problems, and I'll put a link to the ones I purchased in the comments below. To protect the transition, I used frog tape and masking paper to give me a crisp line. To prepare the primer, I first got part A, poured it in a bucket, and then mixed it for 2 minutes per the instructions. I then got part B, poured it in, and mixed it for another 2 minutes. One important thing to note with this epoxy is you mix the entire 5-gallon batch, one bucket at a time. You don't do half a batch, it's not possible. So make sure you do that. The instructions explicitly state this. When applying epoxy, you want to put a lot of it down on that cold concrete at the same time. And you put it down in lines like such. The reason why you want to get all of it out on the concrete as quick as you can is it gets hot in the bucket. And the hotter it gets, the quicker it cures. When you put it on cold concrete, it makes it so it cures a lot quicker and you have more time to work with. Either way, you're fighting time when you're putting this material down regardless, and it's absolutely essential that you move quick. As you can see, we laid down the initial lines of epoxy. From there, I got a squeegee and meshed all the lines together, and my partner on the left hand side got a roller to go and roll all the areas so we had a nice even and uniform application of the material. Once finished with this section, I then moved on to the next portion of the floor. After 24 hours, the first coat was dry, and we were able to put down the next coat, which is the actual epoxy. As you can tell, there's a definite difference in the color, and this really helps you in applying it to make sure that you get a nice, good coverage on the floor. There was one coat of primer and one coat of epoxy, so we had one shot to get this right and make it look good. It seemed like everything squeegeed across very well, and when we rolled it, as you can see right here, it created a nice uniform coat on the whole floor. One thing that's important to note is make sure you get epoxy in the cracks because it just helps create that nice final finished look that you would like to get on your floor. Next is the fun part of the job. You have to apply your flakes. You do this while your epoxy is still wet. So immediately after you apply it, you put your shoes on again and you walk out on the floor and you start throwing your flakes. The key to do this is to throw up in the air, let it bounce off of the ceiling as we learned, and it gives you a nice even dispersal pattern. After 24 hours when this dries, you put on your top clear coat the same exact way, let it cure for 24 hours, and your job's done. This is what it came out like when it was completed in the garage. I'm very, very glad that I did this, and it has a nice clean gloss to the floor. I've had the floor up for about 6 months now, and it's one of the best things I did in the shop.